welcome to this special episode of Quick, where we're all at the SCCE here in lovely Nashville. We've been attending the conference, and we wanted to share with you some of the things that we've been talking about and some of the hot topics and themes that we've been observing. So here we go.
All right, great. I'm going to start out also, just so everyone knows, Sarah Haddon was here for a while and we did some pictures and had a great time with her. And but she is not here for the podcast, but she's here in spirit. So with that, I'm going to start out by talking to Ellen. Ellen, you spoke twice yesterday, didn't you?
I did. I had the first session was a topic that's really kind of become something that I'm kind of obsessed with, which is this idea of not just being prepared to give bad news, but teaching our leaders on how to hear the bad news and act on it. And we really talked about, maybe how some of our zero tolerance policies are actually creating silence in our organizations, and how we can help leaders create accountability and stop the blame game. And then we did a really quick kind of exercise on how would you have some kind of takeaway for your leaders to give them a framework when somebody comes to them with a concern that might not be news that they want to hear. And that was a great session, and the folks really just got engaged with it, and it was a wonderful learning experience.
And I was at that session, so I can absolutely, confirm that is the case. I thought one of the things that was really interesting was talking about how silence and silos sometimes made things a lot worse, even when a company was thinking of a controlled reaction. So how do we balance that need for, doing the right thing versus speed?
Yeah, and it is a balance. And I think the thing is, it always comes back to mission and purpose, right? Everybody has their own goals, what they want to achieve, and they come from their own disciplines and perspectives, but we're stronger together. And we got to remind ourselves sometimes that we're in it together, and we're not going to have the same kind of success if we don't work together. So Hemma, I know you had a session yesterday as well.
I did.
Tell us about it.
No, I was lucky to go really early in this session because I wanted to make sure we were inspiring people to think about what they can do and what legacy they could bring. So I whispered to the audience, your legacy is not out of reach. We had a lofty title, Beyond the Rules, the Future of Compliance is Legacy-Driven Leadership. And so it was really interesting to just see the room come alive when they were tapped on the shoulder and see what they wanted to do. I asked them all at the beginning of the session to talk about what their legacy would be, why did they come into this profession, or if they didn't choose a profession, why they stayed when it chose them. So some really interesting things there. One member of the audience said they were there to drive culture. Another said he was there to have a better family life, and a real range of things that they wanted. And the beauty of the session was it was really training people to think about unlocking their own potential, but also reminded them that in our roles as compliance professionals, we're unlocking the potential of others as well. We're helping people get where they want to go safely, swiftly, strategically. And so it was really nice to do that. Then we had a practical session. I used this framework called the 3 horizons, where I encouraged them to dare to dream about what a future could look like, have them think about what they're doing today, Horizon 1, and then really bridge the gap from Horizon 1 to Horizon 3 by some Horizon 2 thinking. What seeds of change could they plant now? What early signals have they got for things that are happening? And it won't surprise you that AI came up, the ways that we are now leveraging the technology, the amazing technology to get us somewhere closer to that Horizon 3. So really fun. And I've got another session tomorrow with Brittany, and we'll be talking about being in your implementation area. So another thing I love to talk about in terms of legacy is operationalizing your best intentions. And so stay tuned for that. We'll be talking about some practical ways to do that tomorrow.
Great.
Okay.
So now it wasn't just us on stage. You were on stage today, Lisa.
I was on stage today.
I was saying to someone that it's almost a series of doing things that your people won't hate. And so this year, I believe that you did a session on data and data analytics. So tell us a little bit about that and what your plan was for that.
Well, first of all, I do really enjoy Adam Belfour and I have done a couple of, let's talk about things, accepting the fact that things like data analytics or training or anything else, that is not, people in your company are not coming to you and saying, oh my God, this is the most exciting thing I've ever had happen. It's a new policy. It's talking about data. But how do you do this in a way that, for these topics, like in data analytics, how can you make it practical? How can you recognize that you don't need to have, like, you're looking at the screens and we have a lot of basic information every day that is applicable to what we do and collaborate with other parts and functions to provide like substantiation and better understanding to what we do. And I think people try to make it sometimes fancy, too fancy.
Mhm.
That was a lot.
I had a couple takeaways from that session that you did with Adam and Andy. And one in particular was just kind of talking about how privacy is evolving along with AI and AI governance. And if that raises maybe some issues of independence, right? We've talked about, reporting to the general counsel and can ethics and compliance truly be independent? We know that our internal auditor friends have an independence requirement as well. And kind of woven into that was first, second, and third line. And the more we operationalize, the more we have to think about, well, are we at first line instead of the second line of defense? And I thought, well, that's just a really interesting thing for us to think about. And as we try to be more efficient, do more with less, be more embedded in the organization, I think we have to think about some of these guardrails. So Emma, your thoughts on that?
That's such a good point. I mean, I think one of the themes underlying the conversations in the corridors is that we're all being asked to do more with less resources, less people. Many team members have got new titles, long titles, because they're taking on more and more as the organization evolves. So you won't be surprised to find a privacy person taking on security, taking on anti-corruption, all the things in the same job description. And so I think you bring up a really good point that we are the ones that should be thinking about conflicts there and what also just skills and abilities, right? Like we are asked to ramp up a lot. But even a better point I think you make is we're not all things to all people. And I love that you reintroduced this concept of the 3 lines of defense, because we should be unlocking the ability in the risk owners to manage risk at source, not suggesting controls, building controls, then managing controls. And again, that makes compliance seem like it's apart from the business. So yeah, I think you bring up a great point, both in terms of the conflicts, but also where should risk sit? Where should risk be managed? And then what's the role of the compliance profession in that respect? So I think we've got plenty of work to do without taking on that risk management for everyone. And so yeah, lots to think about and lots of strategies I think are being shared.
I just wanted to say something about that. And I've been thinking about the 3 lines and generally, and we've talked about this recently. Is this still the right way to think about everything? Are we using a good model? Has it changed along with other things with technology? How do we make sure that we don't start promoting a more antiquated way of thinking about something because the intentions are right and we understand it? And obviously, I have no answer. This is also what we're calling conversations in the corridor. But is it a time where we keep independence on certain things and try to collaborate more outside other silos? If so, which silos? And if not, why are these things important? I think we think about things in this whole big picture of it and listening to the different presentations, whether it's the bad news at the end, ideation, operationalizing, which I will,
Interoperability.
yeah, the blah, blah, blah.
One of those words.
Which we'll keep in there just so everyone knows. No one can say these things all the time, but I think it's just an interesting way that they all link together. And one of the things I'm finding this year is there are, as we've been talking about, different through lines that keep coming up. So I think that was another thing we wanted to talk about. So Ellen, we're hopping over to you. You're gonna have to answer this one.
What's interesting is one of the other sessions I did was merging more than companies. And we talked about having an implementation plan when you have some kind of corporate transaction, whether it's a merger, acquisition, divestiture, whatever. And it really got back to these very same questions of where is it that you need to structure and where are the roles? And sometimes even the organizations themselves haven't had that clearly defined. And yet they're going to try to do business together or not. Do you centralize? Do you not centralize? Where is it that you really need to think about? Well, how do you want those things to operate? And we know that sometimes things do need to be different to preserve value. And they also need to be different sometimes, really just because of cultural differences. And so I think we sometimes want to have a centralized, uniform, consistent answer for everyone and everybody, but that just might not be the world that we actually live in. So that's the other thing is, how do we really
Exactly.
navigate this?
So there were only two
It's
cities.
really interesting to me to think about that. Another thing that I thought that was an important issue that came up, and I think it's related to this, and this came up in the session that you did with Andy and Adam, is confirmation bias. And I think this gets to your point about the first, second, and third lines. Are we hanging on to this because it's what we know and what we're comfortable with? And do we need to go beyond it?
I love that sentiment. This idea of shifting paradigms and us, being able to question ourselves, really looking a lot to the future, but we don't have to be defined by the past. I think you make a great point there. So I definitely encourage that. Now you may hear a little bit of noise because we're live at the SCCE and this place is thriving. We've got a lot of people coming out of a session. So apologies if you hear some background noise, but I don't know. As always, we say, so happy to be here with you in person. This has been just a joy to see everyone in person and have these conversations and learn from each other. So what's your takeaway from the conference so far?
I just think that, the future is bright. We've got a lot of innovative, very creative people. I'm always inspired by coming to these conferences and just the brilliance, the brightness. I think people are really positive, and that's just a joy.
I think it feels to me very often mission driven to what we do. It reminds us of the importance of it. And I know it's, that it's compliance, the word compliance, everyone thinks the rules, the other things, but I do love here how we all think of it much more of ethics and compliance in a way in which how does it benefit people and organizations and doing the right thing for the right purposes and how that is the best way to be a successful business. And I think it's nice. And I say it all the time, it can be a lonely profession. So when you get together with these people, some people become your friends over the years and you've never met in person. There's something of feeling a part of something bigger, which I think we all want.
Absolutely.
You've nailed it. That's exactly what it is. And look, that's what we do here at the Great Women in Compliance community is we make sure we create spaces for that. So really happy to be here with you both. Really happy to meet so many of you at the conference. And we'll be back with an episode next week.
And thanks always to our sponsor, Corporate Compliance Insights. And Sarah, we enjoyed seeing you earlier in the week, and we're sorry you're not here with us now, but you are with
Can
us.
I do the spoiler alert?
Yeah.
I'm going to give the spoiler alert. One of the reasons we had such a fun day together is we're putting together some updated photos and website and some really new fun energy to bring to an already fun and energetic podcasting group.
So stay tuned for more. We'll see you soon. Okay.
And hi, we have a special guest on our live at the SCCE CEI conference. Right here, we've got the one and the only Adam Turteltaub. And
Hello.
he is going to give us some of his highlights and some news from SCCE. So Adam, what's been your highlight so far?
Oh, geez. I think the highlight, I really enjoyed the general session with the FBI and hearing what's going on with cyber and more about what people can do. I mean, the FBI for years has been trying to push business to get them involved and realize they understand you're a victim in this situation. So it was good hearing that. And I think always a highlight for this conference is just how happy people are to be able to connect with each other and sort of not be alone doing the job and being surrounded by other compliance professionals.
So funny, we were actually talking about that
Oh,
earlier today as well, that it is because it can be a very lonely job
Yeah.
at times for us all to do that. What about for the organization? It's a very exciting time
Yeah.
for you. You've had some changes and how's it
Right.
going?
It's good. I have to admit, I think I spent an hour just talking with Garth, the two of us. I did a podcast with him, which will be airing next week. And otherwise, it's just been in group settings, whether here or calls for the office. And it's exciting because we've never had a leader who has a background running associations. We've had compliance people who stepped into the association role. And it's exciting having someone who knows sort of what works, what doesn't, how you get things done, different ways other associations have approached similar challenges. Every association in terms of its members is different, but at its core, every association is about membership, meetings, certification, and publications and other products. And having someone who can say, well, I know this works better than that, or we're too dependent on this and should have more of that, is going to be really, I think, terrific and lead to a lot more new things for members to take advantage of.
Okay, one last question
Sure.
for you. So as we're getting, when we get to the end of this conference, what can people do next? Or what do you think when someone leaves energized? How do you
Right.
get to keep the energy when not that reality is
Right.
always fabulous.
No,
but
reality
when
is,
you come back to reality, what do you think that people can do to help grow what they've started?
I think it's two things. Is one, people often make a list of what they want to do
Mhm.
and then lose track of it. You know, I know that. I go to there's, believe it or not, there's an association for associations. And I've gone to that conference twice, and you make a long list of great things you want to do, and life gets in the way. And then suddenly you don't know where that list is, or you figure, it's too late. So try and do that. The other thing is, I think, is stay in touch with the people you met. You know, so much of the value of coming to a meeting in person is who you talk to on the breaks,
Mhm.
not just on the podcast. The vice versa would be great too. But it's being able to met this great person and take advantage of knowing them to be able to call over the next year when there's a hard time or you're not sure what to do, or even to share a success. Because, you know, the sad part about compliance is, you know, you go home, your family generally doesn't want to hear about what happened in compliance that day, and having someone else you can share it with is great.
Yeah, and sometimes their advice or ideas may not be quite
Yes,
nearly as
yeah.
helpful.
Right.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh,
You were
thanks.
one of the first people I've met when I did an academy many years
Right.
ago, and then, you know, I've met some very dear friends, including our great women in compliance community. So
Right.
thank you, and on behalf
Thank
of all of us, great event. Thank you.